Oops. Hey guys, welcome back to the Calvinist Contradiction. Here for another episode of the comment response. So this is where we go through the comments and kind of look at what's been going on over the last week or so. And this is kind of more informal video than, like, let's say, where's Calvinism in the Book of Romans, the newest series that we've been doing. We're on chapter 11. Just wanted to thank everybody out there for your sharing, commenting, for your responses, for your love, for your subscribing. We just passed 500 subscribers. I think it was last month. And so we've been growing here as a channel. People do respond to the comments. People are buying the Calvinist Contradiction book, which is our book, which is a critical critique in poetry form. Or, I always say it's like a satiric piece. I wanted to give you, I've been working on something. How can we, we love our Calvinist brothers. We don't believe the same theology. That's where we're, my best friend here, he is a Calvinist dude, and I'm not. We got into a pretty heated church split, and then we just, we don't talk about these things anymore because he's not going to change. I'm not going to change. But I have been thinking, how can we show, because people I know look at the channel and say, oh, they hate Calvinists. You spend so much time hating your brother. And we're like, no, we don't hate our brother. We're trying to correct and teach and sharpen iron. In the same way, hey, how's it going, Bible Club? And so in the same way, I've just been thinking, okay, we have a printing company. It helps our ministry here. My best friend here, who is a Calvinist, when we started preaching together, I said, we just started looking for a resource. What can we use here to, grow in our preaching style? And it is, as a public domain, title. It's called The Simplicity in Preaching by J.C. Ryle. Okay, John Charles Ryle. This guy's a Calvinist. I read this book and it helped me to preach better, teach better. Why? Because he was in the same situation I was, in a podunk town, with this high theology. And how do you take the theology and distill it down so that the sleepy farmer doesn't fall asleep on you? This book is really helpful. It's super short, and since it's in the public domain, we are able to print it. And so as our printing company, Harvest Harbor Publishing, we have now put it out. You guys can check the link in the comment section and go check it out. If you've never read this book, it's awesome. Just super simple. I probably read it like 5 times over the years that I've been preaching. It's from a Calvinist, but we're not too proud to say it's not theological either, to tell you the truth. It's just practical. How do you preach simply to have a audience be able to understand what you're saying? He's not talking about theology in it, what theology to teach, but how to. And I'm not too proud to say, hey, this Calvinistic resource helped a lot. Now, I wouldn't tell you to go get John Piper's COVID-19 book, because that is theological trash, I would say. And I saw how it hurt people over here. But again, we're not too proud to say, hey, our Calvinist brothers and sisters have helped us in some aspects. And this is kind of like an olive branch to that. So check it out in the description section. We got I had help getting the cover made, and I edited it and added a little thing in there. And so check it out if you want to. Again, all the proceeds just go back into the ministry. But again, our little olive branch to say thank you to my Calvinistic brothers who I did have learned stuff from, but not compromising on our theological position. And that's where the other book comes in, where we talk about a lot of the critique in a satiric form. Bible Club, love to hear from you. If you have any thing to say or anything that you want to say during this is our informal videos. We're going to switch gears, go on over to the comment section and just see what people have been saying for the last week. So I'll go back about how many days, 8 days or whatever, and just see what people were saying. So let's see, we have 9 days ago. Okay, so I remember reading Andrew saying, oh, another thing, if you have read our Calvinistic critique book, satiric book, please leave a review. That really helps us. We keep moving up, and I've read your guys' review, and they're awesome. Thank you, guys. Thank you for leaving your reviews. Please continue to do so. It really helps to to move us up. We have a new subscriber, Charles Tucker Norton. Thank you for subscribing, brother. We have is this a response? Here, let's check this out. Okay, I remember we talked about this last time with the limited atonement. He said limited atonement is not wrong. Jesus died for all, atoned for all, blood was shed for all, but are all cleansed? Is everyone's heart washed as white as snow? Why do we have to preach? Because they need to believe, isn't it? Everyone must be born again. It's where the word limited atonement comes in. Calvinism never said Jesus didn't die for all. It's a misunderstanding from Northeast India. We love this guy, 1804 rocks. We responded to him with a supercomputer, which is a powerful resource in our hands. So we came in, we just said, hey, 1804, the supercomputer that scours the internet and tells us what the answer is. And we asked ChatGPT, and it comes up with a Calvinist source from John Calvin telling us that of their limited atonement, that it is literally Jesus's blood doesn't atone for everybody. Oh, thanks. Bible Club says, nice flannel, brother. Is that also a part of the olive branch? I know, right? Actually, I had on a hoodie and then I just chucked it off and threw this on. It was like the closest thing that I have a couple clothes back here and threw it on. So, yeah, it is actually required preaching attire for the young, restless, and reformed, right? So I stuck out like a. Actually, this is really sad. My brother was a Calvinist for a long time. Apart, I can't remember how much I've told this story or how much I've told all y'all, so I can tell it now because this is the informal. But I was in Marietta, Georgia, in Atlanta, outside of Atlanta. I grew up in Baltimore, Maryland, and I didn't grow up as a Christian. I became a Christian at 23 after my best friend died from a fentanyl overdose, and I was also a heroin addict, and we were both got clean at the same time. And she died the night that my brother flew in, who had become a Christian, was living in Atlanta, Georgia. And so he prayed for me. I accepted the Lord, and then a week later, I moved down to Georgia to be with him as he discipled me for 3 months, and he was going to New Zealand to do overseas work and then church work. And so I stayed in Atlanta, Georgia, and then he came to the place where we are now, here in Asia Minor, and he called and he said, "Hey," and we're both fly fishermen, and he's like, "Come on out to New Zealand. We, you will love it." But I always prayed. I didn't feel like I was supposed to go. Met my wife, got married, and then he's like, "We're moving to Asia Minor," and I didn't even know where our country was in the world. I was on Skype at the time, and I had to type it into Google, and I said, "Hey, just don't go over there for any other reason except for you feel called from the Lord." Well, over time, what happens is we both come here, and then we spent 6 months together, and then he went back to Marietta, Georgia, and opened up a church. Now, I always thought I was going to open up a church in the rougher part of Marietta, Georgia, like West Marietta, Georgia. And he went back and he opened up a church in East East Marietta, Georgia, which is like the nice, rich neighborhood. And so he was a part of the Acts 29 network, and it was really hard for him because he's like me. He wears a hat. We kind of look like twins when we get together. We're only 14 months apart. And so he wears t-shirts most of the time. I usually wear a t-shirt at church and a hat. And so he gets a part of this in East Cobb, super nice. And it's just like, people's God here is money. We're talking to people like, I don't need God. I can buy whatever I want. I have everything I want. And so he went up and preached one time and kind of got like disciplined because he was in a t-shirt. And then he had a hat on and he got disciplined because he had a hat on. And so it's just funny, like, he was in the young, restless, and reformed crowd, although he has totally shed all that off now. But definitely I don't stick out. So when I was in the Calvinist church, you can just imagine how it was having a guy who's wearing a hat, a guy who's always in a t-shirt. And that's because we are loved unconditional by God. And it's my estimation, and I have this in my congregation right now, that man, in the way that man loves, is always anathema to God, because we only kind of know conditional love. If they do this, I can love them. What do I get out of this? That's how we're like programmed, and it's deconstructing that humanistic worldview to be able to serve, to be able to love unconditionally, to be able to place yourself under authority that you might not believe is true and right. Like my Calvinist friend, right? I served him for 4 years. I knew he was a Calvinist, didn't agree with what he believed. I was a worship leader. And then it was only when it was forced upon me was when I was like, no, I need to stick to God. I can't sign this piece of paper. I cannot sign this covenant because it transgresses what I truly believe. And he knew that. And so, um, you know, it wasn't, you have to believe the same thing I do for me to serve you. It's, I will gladly serve you as long as you don't ask me to transgress something that I feel is like, I guess, touches on my loyalty to God Himself. And so that's a long way of saying, the flannel shirt stuff is really funny in my eyes, just because now that my brother's out of that, he used to go to Acts 29, and he's like, it's literally like brainwash everybody with primary colors like this shirt. It has to wear primary like flannel, skinny jeans, beard. It's just a coincidence that my beard's shaved off right now because I usually do have a longer beard, but it was my son's birthday and he wanted to look like fresh for his birthday. So he went and got his hair cut. And I was like, I might as well get mine cut off too. And so I don't have a beard right now. So I look like half of a right young, restless, and reformed guy. Here he comes back though. So the supercomputer answered him. I don't even think I put it in here. No, I didn't. I didn't even put the supercomputer answer in here, I don't think. But he comes back and he says, or did I? Let me look. Ooh, this is a long thread. Okay. I don't know. I don't know how these threads work sometimes. Definitely not my answer from 5 years ago, which is right under it. This is 6 days ago. He says, no man is excluded from calling upon God. The gate of salvation is set open unto all men. Amen. Neither is there any other thing which keepeth us back from entering in, save only our own belief. John Calvin. Yeah. So remember, guys, Bible Club said you and your brother have been there and done that. Yeah, absolutely. He is like, you know, you guys can pray for him too. He's still a believer. We talk all the time, but his wife like totally deconstruct and doesn't really have anything to do with the faith really now, or doesn't want to have anything to do with the faith because she saw a lot of the stuff that I would say that is true in Calvinism. They're super clicky. It's like brainwashing. But he's just kind of like he went through a real rough. There was a big thing over here, which like we came over as like 15 couples and families under a leader who started an organization. He's pretty famous. Y'all might know him. His name's Dalton Thomas. He's was a Calvinist guy. Later, he started something called FAI, which we were all a part of. He was found out in sin while he was over here, and everybody else left except for me and the other Calvinist dude because we came to plant churches. Well, since then, this Calvinist dude has gone on to like do the same sin 3 other times. Him and his wife just currently split up. He's like a surfing director or something in Indonesia or something. It has nothing to do with the faith anymore. Massive, sad thing. But this dude used to tell my brother what to do and what to believe and what to think. And then when he went back to Marietta and he was the associate pastor at this Calvinist church, the same thing. You have to think this, you have to do this, you have to wear this, you have to be like this. And so then and then after 10 years, they fire him. And then they say, they totally erase him. And he's just like, I need to find myself. So he's still a Christian, still a believer, super inspirational to me. But, he's just like, I cannot be who other people want me to be. I need to be myself. And I really enjoy that. I really grow because here in this land where I am, there's a lot of foreigners, and foreigners are always trying to get the Turkish believers to be who they want them to be, to manipulate them, to change them, to take on their particular flavor of what they think is supposed to be right. Here's an example of this too. Kind of like, venting today, but I hope this helps y'all to see what's going on over here. We were in a meeting the other day, and they're like, "We need to have a jail ministry." This is the foreigner speaking to the Turks. "You need to have a jail ministry." Now, there is a jail in our town, and we have had a jail ministry for 7 years. They just don't know because they can't speak the language and they're too dang lazy to learn it, as I have. And I have that book now, which I showed you all the other day, a 355-page theology book that I wrote in my host language to help people out here. So I've done a lot of work, spent a lot of money to learn the language. And they say, "You need to have a jail ministry." And the pastor, he just laughed. He says, "One, we have a jail ministry. And two, your Western jail ministry model literally cannot be done here. Like, the way it works here is you can only have access to the jail if a person on the inside who has the right to practice whatever they want, because that's the Constitution here, gets a hold of our church, and we can go and they have to write our names down. We have to talk with them, and then we can go in there and we can help them." And so, like, the Western modern, or they're like, "We want to have a soup kit. We want you to do a soup kitchen to boot. We want you to do a soup kitchen." And they're like, "That's what the Jami does all that. Like, there's no point of us having to do what you want to do to fulfill your little fancy thing, so you can probably write back to the whoever it is that's giving you money or whatever and make yourself feel good." Where it makes no sense to do that. One, because we don't feel called. So Ephesians 2:10's our big underline. Everybody's created in good advance by through Jesus Christ to do good works and to know what those good works are, so we can fulfill them. That's what we are. Our identity is. What did Christ create me to do? Well, obviously, be a translator right now, be a writer and an author, and those kind of things. Support the native church here. Give them theological tools that are not available here, i.e., how to disseminate the information in the Bible in the ancient Near Eastern, or i.e., in their own context, because we're in the Near East. We just need to throw in the ancient part. And so, all that to say, everybody is trying to set up their own little kingdom, and in this Calvinist, in this Calvinistic, I guess worldview, as I should say, it's even more prevalent in my estimation that you have to think, you have to, be in one hive mind, kind of, if I shall. And so back to this quote from John Calvin. Well, last time it might have been 2 or 3 times ago, actually, now that I think about it, a dude was giving us John Calvin quotes, and it would be like that right there. Let me reference back to it, that no man is excluded from calling upon God. The gate of salvation is set open to all men, neither is there any other thing which keepeth back from entering in, save only our own belief, John Calvin. And so he quoted that, and then we went back and looked, and then John Calvin says something totally different, the Calvinist contradiction in his other writings. I wish I could pull it up. Let me see if I can real quick. Let's go up here. I'm just going to see how far back I'm going to need to go to do this, if it will pop up. Don't know if we'll go back that far, because y'all can go back and look for it, but there's a bunch of this one. No, can't find it. There's somewhere somebody quoted John Calvin a ton. And then we just kept sitting there and we just talked about these contradictions that were arising even in John Calvin's own writings. And so, our brother 1804 rocks, we love you, but you're taking this out of context. You're giving us literally one sentence. It's a run-on sentence, we'll give you that, but one sentence to prove that John Calvin's limited atonement was never meant to be exactly what limited atonement. I don't know how, from the definition, of course, if you are a Calvinist, you probably have two definitions for this, but limited atonement. Limited means not for all, and atonement means what helps you or what makes you right with God. So I don't know how you come away with a different definition than what literally the definition of those words are. Richard, who we love, he left an awesome review on our. I'm pretty sure you did that, Richard, on the book. Thank you so much. He says this was on Where is Calvinism in the Book of Romans, Read in Context, chapter 11, part 1, which I hope you guys watched, which that's been some of my favorite probably videos, teachings that I've ever done is Romans 8 through 11 so far. And it's just so, one, easy, but two, just so good. Like all you have to do is read primary sources and you can walk away with the true interpretation of what Paul was trying to say, because he's not going back into the Old Testament primary sources to make a new statement. He's going back there to tell you what he is deriving from the text with his quotations, with his references. And so it's been such a blessing to go back and do that. So thank you, Richard. Uh, United States through 3068 4 days ago says, thanks for your videos, timely with the ball gate. See Shanti. I don't know about this, but I'm going to click on it and see what happens. Oh, Baal Gate. Okay, lyrical video. See Shanti parody. Okay. My apologies to Dr. James White. I don't know what any of this is. The Baal Gate, Calvinism, pagan sacrifices. What is all of this? I have no idea. If you know about this Bible club, let me know. Yeah, I don't know what this is. Warren should have said this, Baal Gate. What is this? Not sure. I'll have to go in and look at this. Baal Gate. This is crazy. So it's Ali Stair, Beg, Controversy, Debate. I don't know what this is, but Baal is a interesting thing. I don't know. No, I wish I could. I wish I was more. I should take some courses on this. Oh wait. Oh yeah, let me share the screen. Okay. So let me see here. Okay, it's just a button, simply. Whoa. Okay. How's it going, Richard? Good to see you, brother. Oh, hold on. I just got to do a couple things real quick. Okay. I can't do it this time because I'd have to quit out and then come back, but I did just find the button to share the screen. No, I'm not sharing the screen. I just went and clicked on. So if you go into our comment section on 11, on Romans 11, so just open up a screen next to it, and it's Romans 11, part 1. And then somebody made a comment on here, and it says, oh, let me go back because I clicked on it and it went there. Oh, Lordy. What's going on here? Okay. And it says, thanks for the vids. Timing, timely with Baal Gate, see Shanti. So the thing that I saw was Baal Gate, see Shanti. I'm sorry about that. Is like a music video, like a parody, which people probably get mad at that. That's my whole book's a parody. My whole Calvinist contradiction, Ode to Calvinism book is a parody. The book of Jonah is a parody. Jesus uses parodies as a literary device. And so, but people who cannot see past their, closed systematic and their like controlling ways cannot take this information. So my friend who's a Calvinist here, I tried to explain to him one time what I believe about the book of Jonah. Now, what I believe about the book of Jonah doesn't change the theological implications of that book. These are the conclusions I have drawn from the book. And, I believe Jonah was a wayward prophet. And then some author took him as a character and made a parody about him that proves to be the most powerful theological points, in my estimation, in the Old Testament to show us um, who we are in God's sight, both how loved we are, and two, how who we truly are. So when we get done the book of Jonah and we say Jonah's a doofus, how could you be like that? It's a mirror staring back at us that we're really Jonah. Is he a, like, historical figure? Yes, he is. Did he go to Nineveh and all that happen? I don't know. I don't have the resources for that, but I know that this piece of literature, whether it's a true biblical account or if it's a parable, a parody parable, as in, the prodigal son. And so my friend, when I tried to explain this to him, he's like, You don't believe he's a historical figure?" And I'm like, "I didn't say that. I'm saying it doesn't actually matter to me." And see, this is where I believe our theology can be so much richer, because in the same way that he says that the only way God can control everything, the only way that God can be all powerful and omnipotent and all this kind of stuff, is if he controls everything. And we say our theology is way deeper than that. God doesn't need to control everything to be those things. So it's a limited, they have limiting views. It's a limited perspective and it stunts them. And so he said, if you don't believe that Jonah was a real, the book of Jonah was a real account, then you're like wayward. And I said, that's a limiting belief. Because would you say that about the parable of the prodigal son? So we know that that's just a parable that Jesus told us. We're not supposed to think it's a biblical, like factual and actual account, right? But we're supposed to dissect that. There's there's parody in there as well. The good son, he's actually the bad son when you break that down. But this literary device of a parable in parody uh, proves the theological point, not the fact that it actually is historical. And that's where we need to look at the book of Jonah, I feel, is whether it's all true. So it's not whether it's true or not, it's whether it is an actual account or not. The theological point that stands behind Jonah is still breathtaking. And, it's weird that it's always these like dictating or dictating, sorry, dictating, limited beliefs that have such a hard time with accepting anything that's different from their, echo chamber. Sorry about that rant right there. But Richard says, is there some specific in the book of Jonah that leads you to believe that it's allegory? Um, no, I think it's more just the fact that it shares so many things. One, the only other reference we have to Jonah in the Old Testament is this wayward character where he comes in and he tells the king the exact opposite of what he's supposed to do. And so the other, I think it's Amos, he's like, do this, and Jonah comes and he says, no, do this. And it's like, it was the wrong one for sure. And it was you know the like he just was wayward in that. I would say historically they said there is no Nineveh, from my estimations of everything that I've looked at, that would have taken somebody 3 days. Now, was it like literal 3 days? Was he lollygagging some as he had done the whole book? Those kind of things. I look at it and I just say, then there was things with like the king and just ways, just things about the king that, from when I researched, now I took a whole class on this and then I had to write a paper, and I'll see if I can find that and then bring it back up, and I can give it to y'all. But like, the way that the king acts and things like that is not typical to what we know about Assyrian kings and stuff like that. And so it just seems like historically there's a lot of ambiguity. Is that the word there? Am I looking for? with the historical aspect of it, whereas we don't have that with the other prophets so much. And so that leads me to believe that we should be looking deeper at the book. And then again, everything's flipped on its head in the book. Everything, you have the sailors who are always the roughest character in every book. They're the ones who repent, they're the ones who find God. Even the cows, they repent and stuff like this. Like everything's flipped upside down. The wickedest king in the world, who is the Assyrian king, like notoriously known for the wicked stuff he does, he recognizes that God is merciful and shows favor, and Jonah doesn't. So the prophet, and so it has all these points of parody and satire, which is why it's my favorite book. One, but also to prove the theological point of God's love and mercy for those which we would see undeserving of such. So Richard's question was, is there something specific in the book of Jonah that leads you to believe that it's allegory? I think not so much just let me see how I should phrase this. Not so much just like from the text themselves, except for the literary device which is being employed there. Um, but like also this is extra biblical, of course, the things I said about the historical accounts of it. And again, if it is, I have no problem with that. Um, I'm just saying when we make the book of Jonah all about the factuality is not the right word. The truth is not the word. The reality is not even the right word. If it was a real account, then we've lost a lot of what I feel the author's intent is behind the writing. And so, again, it's one of my favorite books. It's right here, Jonah, and then we got Luke over here. These are from the Bible Project. It's just amazing. And again, I'll look for that article, or I think it was like a paper that I had to write on the book of Jonah, looking at it. The other thing that I think, so this is textual, actually. Now that's coming up, praise God that you just put that in my mind, is that you can piece literally the book of Jonah. And I did it throughout here. I think it's the only prophet book that you can do this with, too. One, it's the only prophet book that's about a prophet, so it's more like the parable of the prodigal son than any other prophet book. But in like, it's amazing in the Psalms and in I think it's other prophets as well. You can literally piece all of the book of Jonah basically back together from these other texts. And so that's where the course I took on it was, if this is true that you can take most of Jonah from other places in the Bible, did somebody, by knowing the biblical account of the Old Testament so well, and knowing that Jonah was a wayward prophet, take the biblical account and construct this massive parable again, a massive parable to teach everybody, the mercy and love of God, and uh, the waywardness of even his own people, i.e., is even his own prophet. So that is was a powerful point to me. That like I hope I can find. Let me see if I can come in here and find one of them real quick. I know it was heavy in the Psalms. Might take too long, and I've used this Bible out. When I first did it, there was like usually just only that. But let me just turn to Jonah real quick because it will reference it there. Here's Jonah. And so if you look at some of these, like verse 7 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Chapter 3, verse 7 has like 10 references into the Old Testament. 8 has 1, 2, 3, 4. Verse 9 has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Has 10. 10 old Testament references, and it's like that for almost every single verse in Jonah. And Jonah's a small book, so you can go do this. Go back and look at the primary sources and see what it tells you. Literally, they're almost quotes from the Old Testament. So this person, whoever wrote Jonah, even if it is a real historical account, framed it heavily with the Old Testament references that they could, or even quotations from the Old Testament. So it's super powerful stuff. Again, when you get into looking at as literature in the Old Testament, again, I don't think we think about it so much that like the Bible was written to certain people, not us, but it's written for us. And when those authors came in and they would write these things were written and then heavily edited. And when they wrote those, they used constructs and literary devices to frame what they're saying so that it would be easy to, one, remember because it's an audible. They're trying to remember it audible, but also like using thematic or using themes and using tropes and stuff like that, so that every single time you come across something, like a simple one is David standing on his balcony in the borders of Eden, and then he looks out and he sees Bathsheba. Like this trope of being in the borders of Eden, being in Eden, and something about to happen. You like when you know that now, and you come up to that story, like something bad's about to happen. When the people who it was written to were coming up to that, they're like, something bad's going to happen. They're in Eden. He's in Eden. The borders of Eden have been expanded, and he's in there, and something bad's going to happen because he used that same trope over and over to message, to get people to have their minds like thinking about when they're reading these things, they automatically know, uh-oh, something's going to happen, because this has been happening so much. And the biblical authors take what preceded it to write what they're about. Therefore, you could like, be telegraphing what's about to happen, i.e., here comes another sin. And this is something that happens, from Genesis 3, 6, 12, and on and beyond, because it keeps setting up the same trope. Bible Club comes in and says the Bible was written to Calvin, and Calvin interpreted the application for us. Yeah, absolutely. See that, and I've said this a lot, is that when you take on this, I got it from Craig Keener or John Watton. I have a did I put up here? Yeah, I have the NIV Cultural Background Study Bible. Go get it. I got this saying from them, and that is the Bible was written to specific cultures, specific people, and it was written, but it was written for us. And what I added on to that is the distinction that lies in between there is where Calvinism falls, because it thinks it was written to them, and then it's their job to dictate it for us. So that's exactly what Bible Club is saying, but with Calvin. And so uh, here's another one. Mike Loin says, tell your friend to share these. Yes, please share these videos. Share the link to the book, Calvinism, an ode to Calvinism, because it's kind of that same thing. It's the same thing as the book of Jonah. We're poking fun, and that's actually, Richard, if you're still out there, textual like analysis wise, is everything is a Bartma. What is this in my native language? A Bartma. Everything is, what is it? Exaggerated. Everything is exaggerated to the umph degree in Jonah. And that's what we try to do with an ode to Calvinism is, yes, some of them were real events that happened, that took place in my, life in time and space, but then we exaggerate them. It has, I'm sure you have seen it. It's The Hobbit. Not as good as The Lord of the Rings, but the Hobbit movie, when Gandalf goes to uh, Bilbo, and he says, "Hey, do you want to go on this adventure?" And he's basically like, "No." And then Gandalf talks about the Tooks, Bilbo's, I think it's great grandfather. He was so big that he could ride a normal size horse. And that, he jokes and he says that he knocked off a goblin's head and it went so far and fell into a rabbit hole. And at the same time, he conquered and invented the game of golf. And Bilbo says something about, like, I think you exaggerated or something like that. And he goes, every good story deserves to be exaggerated. And I think that's Jonah right there. That's the ode to Calvinism right there. We are exaggerating to prove the theological nonsense of Calvinism. What do they say? Oh, that's not what Calvinism teaches. And what do we say every time? That is the logical conclusion. Just because you stop short and you won't draw that conclusion doesn't mean that conclusion's not supposed to be drawn. When you go on to say that limited atonement, this is what we're talking about right now, that limited atonement doesn't mean limited atonement. And we say, let's draw the logical conclusion for you. Christianity proper, not Calvinism, which is Gnosticism, which is Islam, which is all from the same spiritual deity. We're saying as Christians that everybody can be in a relationship with God, contingent upon their faith. You have faith, you're justified. Calvinism says the exact opposite. You're justified, then you have faith, i.e., who's justified? There comes the question, and there is the kicker. Who can be justified? The ones who God chose. That's what Calvin says. Okay, well then the ones that God didn't choose, they're not atoned for, i.e., God's atonement is limited, i.e., limited atonement. I mean, I do not know how people, well-to-do people, like our brother over there who said that limited atonement doesn't mean limited atonement, come to these conclusions. So thank you, Mike Loins, for saying that. Tell friends, share these. Let's get this stuff to go out further and further so that we can, kill the giant of Calvinism, take him down once and for all. I saw this by YouTube views. This song stays in my heart. I'm not sure what that is. Doesn't seem right, but by YouTube views 895. Don't know what this song stays in my heart. Hopefully had something to do with our thing, but don't know. Let's see, Pamela. Why did this pop up? What'd she say? Oh, she said that. Okay, yeah, it was Pamela Lady commented. Thanks for your vids. Timely with Baal Gate. C. Shanti. Don't know again, Richard. Do you know anything about this Shaal Gate? Sheep Bunty? I don't know. Richard says, I don't have any problem with the allegorical embellishments. We have to follow the Bible to be what it is, a book written by men who were inspired by God. Amen. And that was my point with the book of Jonah all the time, is like, okay, who's putting the extra sauce on this, if you will? Me who's saying I'll accept it if it's, fictitious is not right because it's a person. Just like, is my Ode to Calvinism book fictitious in the fact that I'm taking real situations and just embellishing them, right? To prove a theological point. No, it's not fictitious. It's just embellished on that. And so I'm saying if it is a story that is made up from all the other scriptures, kind of like a sermon jam of the Old Testament to prove this point of a parable, what is the word? Parable. I can accept that. If it's a real story that somebody recorded, I can accept that. And then my Calvinist friend was like, I can't accept the one, or I don't accept the one. I only accept this. This happened with another Calvinist dude here who was saying that Moses wrote his own death. basically. He's like, Moses wrote the whole Torah, the whole Pentateuch. And I was like, no, he definitely didn't write the end. I mean, especially the part where it says, a prophet like this will arise. Well, that's Moses himself. A prophet like this will arise among you. But then at the end of it, it says that no prophet has arisen. So it's an editorial note. It happens all the time in there. It will say this place, which is still the same today. There's editorial notes. He couldn't accept that. He couldn't accept that it's been edited. Well, why can't God inspire the whole process? That's all I'm saying. Is like Calvinists, in my estimation, because of their inspiration and infallibility doctrines from wherever they get these from, it's that it was dictated from heaven in a perfect state. Who else shares this? Who else shares this worldview? That it's dictated out of heaven in the perfect state, and that's infallible. It's Islam. They say the same thing. It was dictated out of heaven and it's infallible. This is why we're working on that book, Calvin and the Quran. That's what it's called right now. It's going to go and prove from the Bible where this all originates, and that it's the same spiritual entity and how they share. They're really strange bedmates. Calvinism and Islam. They're way more. They're way more. They have way more in common than what Christianity proper and what Calvinism or what Christianity proper and what Islam has. They share so much together. And we don't believe that. We believe that it is inspired and infallible in its theological points. Okay, so is it infallible when they say that the earth is flat? That's what they said. That's what they believe. Flat earth, four, pillars that God upholds with the sea monster under it. Is that infallible? Well, my friend, he just denied that they believed it was a flat earth. So he made crap up and he tried to withhold his theology with some crap that, sorry for my crude language, but this is honestly what people do. And then he tried to, disseminate that. And then I come in and I say, no, they had the word for sphere. They had the word for a circle, but they chose flat. That's what they believed. Flat earth, pillars on the bottom, mountaintops upholding the dome. And this is their worldview. So is it infallible that they thought that? Or were the people that they were communicating at that time, that's what God used in that time and space. And so now we can look back for us and use it. We have a more powerful, just even way of comprehending the scriptures when you drop all of this, because it's infallible with its theological, whatever comes out of the book of Jonah, whatever way it was written. If it's just a parable, what do we say? Prodigy. I'm getting my words all mixed up now. If it's satirical, parable. The same theological things can be applied. We can take those and apply them. If it is a factual account of what happened in reality, we can take that and we can use it because we believe that it's the theological construct, the theological points that are being brought out that is infallible. Not just the text itself. The texts have been edited because they weren't infallible, but God, over the whole process of writing them, redacting and translating, because you have the Septuagint, which is super important, and then ultimately editing it into its final form. He's seeing that whole process. He's been over that whole process, and that's what I believe inspiration, infallibility is supposed to encompass. Not just the writing part, not some dictatorial thing that comes out of heaven. It's really weird when we think about it. So sorry about all that. Sea Shanty is a parody of a popular song written by Drew. Okay, so we're getting some answers on this. This is Richard again, written by Drew McLeod from Provisionalist Perspective. Ballgate is a hashtag that went viral because Idol Killer Warren McGrew made comparison between. Whoa, and I was linked in there with the hashtag, which cool. That is timely. That's just God, because I haven't been planning anything. And there's been tons of things. My kid's birthday last week had to do with me making that video. And so cool. And so we'll have to check that out. I'll put a link in the thing, and so people can check that out. But thanks, Richard, for being able to explain that for me, because I hadn't seen any of that. And so tell your friends to share these songs. That's that one. Okay, cool. What's this? Oh, Lord of the Sabbath. He shared a post, which is, absolutely amazing. This was our post where we were the 9th spot, if you can believe it or not, in Calvinist Christianity for the Kindle book. That is just amazing. We probably have fallen up, but if you guys want to help us I was hoping to get to the number 1 spot. I would probably have fainted, because I just wouldn't have thought that would be possible. But the 9th spot in all of the Kindle store on Amazon, we're talking about thousands of bucks. Let me see real quick how many books there are. Actually, I can pull that up. In this category, let's see here real quick. There's 4,000 books in the Calvinism category as of, let me see, today. Where are we ranking at today? Let me try to find this. And we were number 9 out of 4,000. And we're talking about the bondage of the will. We're talking about the institutes. We ranked up above all of those because of your guys's, help with your guys's reviews. So please, if you're out there, a Bible Club, share the link so we can get up there. It's not about the money for me. I have it set pretty low, actually. It's about getting our message out there and having people see. So we're at 185 now, and it moves every day. And so it had moved down, and we were 90. 185 is not bad out of 4,000. We're 371 in Calvinist Christianity in the book category, and then we're 445 in Christian poetry, which isn't bad as well. So we're up there. We're ranked in the Kindle store at 538,000. Not a bad ranking for a new book that's competing with, again, the bondage of the will, that's competing with the institutes. So yeah, we got into the top 10 Bible Club. So thank you guys for sharing. Again, please leave reviews, ask for reviews if you do share it. It's not about the money for me. It's about getting this message out and having people just take a look at Calvinists from a different perspective. I also am kind of thinking about some other stuff to help people with this. So I was okay, what kind of book can I make here, or what kind of resource really? I know that everybody out there who's listening to this channel, if you are not a Calvinist and you've tried to engage with Calvinists, what's the number one answer you're always going to get? You just don't understand Calvinism. And so I was thinking about some kind of tulip Bible journal, or I guess a Bible journal. So it would be T, and then on the top of every, the first page would be T for tulip, which means total inability, and a quote from a Calvinist. And then the next day, or the next page, would be a U, unconditional election. What is a quote from a prominent, not just some dude on the internet, a prominent Calvinist person who teaches this. And that way, when they're using their journal, it's not us that doesn't understand. The problem with this is that they don't understand. So thank you guys for helping us get to number 9. Just amazing. What's the next one here? We've got, great. This is one of probably the oldest videos. Let me see when this goes back to. This is comments on how is Calvinism practical in counseling hurting people. This is a great question. How does somebody who just lost a baby, we lost a baby not this New Year's, but 2 New Years ago, on New Year's Eve into New Year's Day, we had a miscarriage. How does a Calvinist deal with that? Well, they can't do it as being a Calvinist because the baby went to hell because they couldn't hear the gospel and respond to it, right? All babies, unless it was elected before the foundation of the world, which we couldn't know. How do you counsel somebody with that? How do you counsel somebody, with divorce? I don't know how, if Bible Club or Richard or whoever else is listening out there, if you remember Juan. But remember Juan, he said that Calvinism has made my marriage so much stronger, knowing that I'm not responsible basically for anything. And we're and okay, that might be true. But I literally laughed and said, Juan, God's responsible for, okay, if God's responsible for your marriage, eh, not breaking up, God's also responsible for like a 60 to 70% divorce rate in the church for his own glory. And so we were like, every divorce is from God as well. And he like just totally got stopped short. And he's like, he just didn't know what to say because he's not drawing that logical conclusion to the end that if God's responsible for everything, i.e., responsible for every marriage, i.e., he's responsible for every divorce. And it's a super high divorce rate within the church. It's like 60 or 70% or something like that. And this is all for his own glory. And there's nothing you can do about it except grit your teeth and bear it. And one obviously didn't think about that. But here we go. How is Calvinism practical in counseling hurting people? Great refuting of complete nonsense. John Piper, Paul Washer, John MacArthur. Calvinism is complete nonsense. Absolutely. Amen. This is Striper 1. This is the last one here. Comments on a former Calvinist challenge to all Calvinists. This is Matt Flynn, 1342. He says, how can there be any Calvinist evangelists? There's an oxymoron for you right there. Calvinist evangelist. What am I doing in this nation, which I've given up basically my life to be over here? Because I believe that God loves every man, woman, and child, and that everybody can, by placing their faith into Jesus, be justified. That is what the Bible says. That's what we saw in Romans 1 through 11 now. This is what we saw all the way through Genesis. What is my Calvinist friend doing here? Unfortunately, he might have to leave being here, but I've asked him this before. Well, why are you here? What are you sharing? Well, God provides the means as well as the ends. Well, what the heck does that mean? Like, God just provides the ends, and the means doesn't matter because the end is you're chosen or you're not chosen. What means is there? Are you talking about a condition? They're confused, right? A means would be a condition because you're chosen before you were born or created to be saved or not saved. There's no conditions on this. And so you're going to be saved no matter what anybody does, or you're not going to be saved no matter what anybody does. And anything in between there is called a condition, which the second, the U of the acronym for TULIP tells us that there's no conditions. So your presence being here is a contradiction to your faith or your own beliefs, which you're trying to teach other people to take on. Glad I'm not in that boat. That's the last one, guys. Again, we have that book, Ode to Calvinism, that's out. Y'all go check it out. Hopefully you like it. Leave a review. And then our new Olive Branch. I don't think you were here, Richard, for it. The Olive Branch, which we're putting out. Other than the plaid shirt for my, to show that I'm not so against a young, restless, and reformed crowd. I can't dress like they're, dictated to have to. But simplicity of preaching, especially if you like to teach, if you like to preach, if it's a part of your job, I thought about how can we kind of have like an olive branch to our Calvinist brothers and sisters to show that we aren't above recognizing if we've learned something from them. And this Calvinistic brother, J.C. Ryle, John Charles Ryle, who wrote this back in like the 1800s on simplicity of preaching. It's like 5 points on how to preach simply. It has nothing to do with theology or Calvinist theology. It's just literal practical points on how to produce a message that people can hear. It really helps with the way that I teach, even on this channel, helps the way that I teach on Sundays, helps the way that I teach in conferences and stuff like that. And it's just how to speak and communicate clearly, but this is in the church setting. So you can go and get that resource as well. All the proceeds or whatever it is goes back into our ministry to make more resources for our channel. So we love you guys. We thank you so much. Richard, thanks for explaining Baalgate, which I will put a link in a little post so we can look at it. And then all you guys out there, Bible Club, anybody out there that I didn't see pop up here, we love you guys. Thank you so much. We'll be back most likely tomorrow if I don't have to go to my church and deal with some things for the second part of Romans 11. I hope you guys are enjoying that. And we will talk to you we'll see you shortly with another episode of The Calvinist Contradiction. God bless.